The sky over New York City turned dark on a sunny Tuesday afternoon. People stopped in their tracks, looking up with wide eyes and open mouths. A massive spaceship, bigger than any building in the city, slowly moved into view. Its surface was smooth and shiny, reflecting the sunlight in a way that hurt the eyes. All over the world, similar ships appeared over major cities. London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing, and many others found themselves under the shadow of these giant vessels. TVs, phones, and radios all across the globe suddenly stopped working. Then, a deep voice boomed from the ships, speaking in every language known to man. "People of Earth, we are the Galactic Empire. Your planet now belongs to us. You have two choices: surrender or face destruction." The voice was cold and emotionless. It didn't sound like it cared which choice humans made. The message repeated 3 times before silence fell again. In the White House, President Sarah Chen sat at her desk, her face pale and her hands shaking slightly. She looked at the group of advisors and military leaders gathered in the Oval Office. "What are our options?" she asked, her voice steady despite her fear. General Mike Thompson, a tall man with gray hair and a stern face, stepped forward. "Madam President, our satellites and radar systems are useless against their technology. We're blind and deaf. Our best weapons might as well be sticks and stones compared to what they have." "So you're saying we should surrender?" the president asked, her eyes narrowing. The general shook his head. "No, ma'am. I'm saying we need to buy time. We need to talk to them, learn more about what we're facing." At the United Nations in New York, representatives from all nations gathered in an emergency meeting. The usual arguments and disagreements were forgotten as they faced this new, overwhelming threat. UN Secretary General Amina Okafor stood at the podium, her dark skin contrasting with her white hair. "We must stand united," she said, her voice firm and clear. "This is not a threat to one nation or one people. This is a threat to all of humanity." As the leaders of the world debated and planned, ordinary people reacted in different ways. Some panicked, rushing to stores to buy food and supplies. Others gathered in churches, mosques, and temples to pray. Many just sat at home, hugging their loved ones and watching the news in shock. In a small town in Kansas, a farmer named John looked up at the sky, his weathered face set in determination. "We've faced tough times before," he said to his wife. "We'll face this one too." In a high school in Sydney, Australia, a group of teenagers huddled together, their phones useless in their hands. "What do you think will happen?" one girl asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," her friend replied, "but we're not going down without a fight." As the day turned to night, the alien ships remained in position, silent and threatening. The world held its breath, waiting for what would come next. In a secret military bunker deep underground, a team of scientists and engineers worked frantically. They knew their current technology was no match for the aliens, but they weren't ready to give up. "If we can just understand how their systems work," one scientist muttered, her eyes red from lack of sleep, "maybe we can find a weakness." Back in the White House, President Chen made her decision. She stood up, smoothed her suit, and looked at each person in the room. "We will not surrender," she said, her voice strong and clear. "We will fight. We will find a way. Humanity has faced extinction before, and we've always found a way to survive. We'll do it again." She turned to her communications director. "Prepare a message to be broadcast worldwide. And get me a direct line to that ship. It's time we gave the Galactic Empire our answer." As dawn broke over a changed world, humanity prepared to face its greatest challenge. The message was clear: Earth would not go quietly. The war for survival was about to begin. The world changed overnight. Countries that had been enemies for decades now found themselves working together. In a historic moment, the leaders of the United States, Russia, and China stood side by side on a global broadcast. "We face a threat greater than any in human history," President Chen said, her voice firm. "But we will face it together. Russian President Volkov nodded. Our differences mean nothing now. We are all Earth's children. Chinese Premier Lai added, together, we will show the Galactic Empire the strength of humanity. All around the world, people watched in amazement. Old hatreds were set aside as humanity united against a common enemy. In laboratories and workshops across the globe, scientists and engineers worked around the clock. They knew their current technology was no match for the aliens, but they weren't giving up. Dr. Emilia Rodriguez, a brilliant physicist from Mexico, led a team trying to understand the aliens' energy systems. If we can figure out how they power their ships, she explained to her tired team, we might find a way to disrupt it. In Japan, robotics expert Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka worked on improving Earth's defensive systems. We need to make our weapons faster, smarter, he said, his fingers flying over a keyboard. The aliens won't expect us to adapt so quickly. Military bases became centers of frantic activity. Soldiers trained harder than ever before, pushing themselves to their limits and beyond. They knew they might be humanity's last line of defense. In a secret facility deep in the Australian outback, a group of elite soldiers from different countries trained together. Captain Sarah Williams, a tough American soldier, sparred with Sergeant Lai Wei from China. We need to be ready for anything, Sarah said, helping Lai Wei up after a tough bout. The aliens could have weapons we can't even imagine. Lai Wei nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. But they don't know what we're capable of either. We'll surprise them. Meanwhile, in Silicon Valley, tech companies put aside their rivalries. They pooled their resources and brightest minds to create new defensive software. Their goal was to protect Earth's remaining functional systems from alien hacking attempts. Mark Zhang, a young programmer, hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red, but they shone with determination as he explained his idea to the team. If we can create a constantly evolving firewall, it'll be much harder for the aliens to break through. Governments around the world enacted emergency measures. Rationing was put in place to ensure essential supplies. People were encouraged to learn basic survival skills. Schools began teaching children about space and alien technology alongside regular subjects. In a small town in Germany, 10-year-old Lena listened wide-eyed as her teacher explained the basics of space travel. We need to understand our enemy, the teacher said. Knowledge is our best weapon. Underground bunkers were built or expanded in major cities. People hoped they wouldn't be needed, but they had to be prepared for the worst. In the depths of the ocean, submarines carried precious cargo, seeds from every plant species on Earth. If the worst happens, a scientist explained as she carefully stored the seeds, we'll have what we need to start over. Despite the fear and uncertainty, there was a sense of purpose and unity like never before. Strangers helped each other, communities came together, and the human spirit showed its resilience. In a refugee camp in Kenya, people from different countries and backgrounds worked together to build shelters and distribute food. We're all in this together now, an old woman said as she shared her meager meal with a young family. As weeks passed, the alien ships remained silent and motionless in the sky, but Earth was far from quiet. The hum of machinery, the buzz of ideas, and the determination of billions of people filled the air. In the White House Situation Room, President Chen looked at the latest reports. Earth's defenses were improving, but would it be enough? She took a deep breath and turned to her advisors. It's time, she said. We need to make the first move. We can't wait for them to attack. As plans were made for humanity's first offensive action, a mix of fear and excitement spread around the world. The impossible task of preparing for war with an advanced alien race had begun. Now, it was time to see if it would be enough. The world held its breath as humanity prepared to make its first move against the Galactic Empire. In the early hours of a crisp autumn morning, Earth's combined military forces launched a carefully planned attack on the alien ships hovering over major cities. As the sun rose over New York City, a swarm of sleek, newly designed fighter jets screamed across the sky. Captain Miguel Rodriguez led the squadron, his heart pounding as he approached the massive alien ship. "Remember your training," he said over the radio to his team. "We're humanity's first line of defense. Let's show these aliens what we're made of." The jets fired their new plasma-based weapons, developed in secret labs over the past weeks. To everyone's surprise and relief, the weapons actually penetrated the alien ship's shields. Across the globe, similar scenes played out. In Beijing, a group of hackers led by Lai Mei, a young tech prodigy, launched a coordinated cyber attack on the alien ship's systems. "We're in," Lai Mei shouted, her fingers flying over her keyboard. "Their systems are more similar to ours than we thought. We can do this." For a moment, it seemed like humanity might have the upper hand. But then, the Galactic Empire responded. The alien ships came to life, their surfaces shimmering with strange energy. Beams of blinding light shot out, vaporizing fighter jets and buildings alike. The sky turned red with fire and smoke. In London, Dr. Emily Watson watched in horror from her underground lab as the city above was bombarded. "We underestimated them," she whispered, tears in her eyes. But then she straightened up, a look of determination on her face. "But we're not done yet." She turned to her team. "Quick, let's analyze this attack. There must be a pattern, a weakness we can exploit." As major cities around the world burned, humanity's response took the Galactic Empire by surprise. Instead of surrendering, people fought back with everything they had. In the ruins of Moscow, ordinary citizens formed human chains to rescue people trapped in collapsed buildings. Firefighters worked tirelessly to control the blazes, even as alien ships loomed overhead. In a small town in Brazil, farmers used their tractors to help evacuate people to safer areas. "We will not let them win," one farmer said, his face streaked with soot, but his eyes filled with determination. The alien forces, expecting an easy victory, found themselves facing unexpected resistance at every turn. Humans used guerrilla tactics, striking quickly and then disappearing into hidden bunkers and tunnels. In the deserts of Egypt, a team of archaeologists turned warriors used their knowledge of ancient underground cities to set up a base of operations. Led by Dr. Fatima Hassan, they launched surprise attacks on alien ground forces. "They may have advanced technology," Fatima said as she prepared for another raid, "but we have thousands of years of history and survival instinct on our side." As the battle raged on, acts of incredible bravery and sacrifice were seen all over the world. In Japan, an elderly man named Hiroshi Tanaka used his own body to shield a group of children from alien fire, allowing them to escape to safety. In the skies over Australia, pilot Sarah Chen flew her damaged jet straight into an alien fighter, taking it down with her. Her last words over the radio were, "For Earth and humanity." Despite heavy losses, humans managed to destroy several alien ships and ground units. The Galactic Empire, which had expected an easy conquest, found itself in a real war. In the White House Situation Room, President Chen received reports from around the world. The news was grim, millions dead, cities in ruins. But there was hope too. "We've managed to capture some alien technology," a general reported. "Our scientists are already working to reverse engineer it." Another report came in. The aliens seemed to be retreating from some areas. They didn't expect this level of resistance. President Chen nodded, her face tired but determined. "We've surprised them. Now we need to press our advantage. Tell our forces to keep fighting. We will not give up." As the first day of all-out war came to an end, the world was forever changed. The sky was dark with smoke, great cities lay in ruins, and millions had lost their lives. But humanity had survived the first assault, and more importantly, they had proven that they could fight back. In hidden bases and secret labs around the world, scientists and military leaders worked frantically to plan the next move. The war had only just begun, and Earth was determined to win. Weeks had passed since the first assault. The Galactic Empire, caught off guard by humanity's fierce resistance, had retreated to regroup. But now, they were back with a vengeance. As dawn broke over the ruins of Paris, a new wave of alien ships appeared in the sky. These were different, smaller, faster, and more agile than the massive ships from the first attack. Lieutenant Marie Dubois, leading a group of French resistance fighters, watched from a hidden bunker. "They've adapted," she said grimly. "They're learning our weaknesses." The new alien ships zoomed through the city, their weapons precisely targeting key infrastructure and defense points. It was clear the Empire had studied human tactics and was now exploiting their vulnerabilities. In the depths of the Pentagon, General John Martinez received reports from around the globe. "They're hitting our power grids, water supplies, and communication centers," he said, his face grim. "They're trying to break our will to fight." But humanity had been preparing too. In underground labs and secret facilities, scientists had been working nonstop to develop new defenses. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a brilliant engineer in Tokyo, had created a new type of force field. As alien ships attacked the city, the shield flickered to life, deflecting their energy weapons. "It won't hold forever," Yuki said, monitoring the shields from her lab. "But it gives us time to evacuate civilians and launch a counterattack." In Africa, a different kind of defense was being mounted. Kenyan wildlife researcher Dr. Amina Osei had made a startling discovery. Some animals could sense the aliens before human technology could detect them. Now, she led a team that used everything from elephants to birds as an early warning system. "The aliens may have advanced tech," Amina said, patting a nearby elephant, "but they can't beat millions of years of evolution." The Empire's new strategy wasn't limited to physical attacks. They had learned that humans were social creatures, dependent on each other. So they began to target human psychology. Alien broadcasts hijacked TV and radio signals, spreading fear and misinformation. They promised safety to those who surrendered, and threatened terrible consequences for those who continued to resist. But humanity fought back in unexpected ways. In India, a group of Bollywood filmmakers created inspiring movies about human resistance, spreading hope and courage. These films were shared around the world, boosting morale. Meanwhile, in the Brazilian rainforest, indigenous tribes who had survived colonization now used their ancestral knowledge to hide entire communities from alien detection. Chief Raoni of the Kayapo tribe said, "We have protected our lands for centuries. We will not let these sky invaders take them now." The war raged on, with heavy losses on both sides. The Empire's advanced technology caused devastating damage, but human ingenuity and determination kept finding ways to strike back. In orbit, astronauts from different countries worked together on the International Space Station, now converted into a makeshift battle station. They used their unique vantage point to coordinate global defense efforts and spy on alien movements. Commander Sarah Chen looked down at the Earth, parts of it scared and burning. "We're fighting for every inch of our home," she said, "and we'll keep fighting until the last of us falls." On the ground, guerrilla tactics proved effective against the aliens' superior firepower. In the streets of New York, a group of street artists used their skills to create camouflage so effective it confused alien sensors. "They may have fancy tech," said Maria, a graffiti artist turned resistance fighter, "but they don't understand human creativity." As the battle raged, scientists made a crucial discovery. Dr. Alan Peterson, working in a hidden lab in Antarctica, found a way to interfere with the aliens' communication systems. "Their language is complex," he explained to world leaders via a secure link, "but it's based on mathematical principles we can understand and disrupt." This discovery led to a series of successful ambushes on alien forces, giving humanity a much-needed boost. But the war was far from over. The Empire, realizing that humans were more formidable than expected, began to bring in more forces from across the galaxy. In the White House Situation Room, President Chen looked at the latest reports. The news was mixed: victories and losses, hope and despair. "We've survived their second wave," she said to her advisors, "but there's more coming. We need to be ready." As night fell across a battle-worn Earth, Humanity prepared for the next phase of the war. They had proved they could stand up to the Galactic Empire, but the question remained, could they win? In labs, in bunkers, in hidden bases around the world, people worked tirelessly. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and every human knew that their next moves could decide the future of their species. The war had been raging for months. Earth was scared, its cities in ruins, but humanity refused to give up. In a hidden laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, a team of scientists from around the world worked tirelessly on a project that could turn the tide of the war. Dr. Emily Chen, a brilliant physicist from Singapore, stared at the glowing device in front of her. "I think we've done it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We've cracked their technology." The device was small, about the size of a smartphone, but its potential was enormous. It could disrupt the energy fields that powered the alien ships and weapons. Dr. Chen's colleague, Dr. Ahmed Hassan from Egypt, nodded in agreement. "It's time to test it in the field," he said. "But we need to be careful. If the Empire finds out about this..." They didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the lab knew the stakes. Meanwhile, in orbit around Earth, the alien fleet prepared for what they hoped would be the final assault. Commander Zix of the Galactic Empire looked down at the blue planet with disdain. "These humans have been troublesome," Zix said to his second-in-command, "but they cannot stand against our full might. Today we end this war." Little did Zix know that humanity had a surprise waiting. As the alien fleet descended, a small team of human fighters took off from a hidden base in the Amazon rainforest. Their jets were ordinary, but each carried one of the new devices. Captain Maria Silva led the squadron. "Remember," she said over the radio, "we only have one shot at this. Make it count." The human jets seemed like gnats compared to the massive alien ships. The Empire's forces didn't even bother to engage them at first, focusing instead on their primary targets. That was their mistake. As Maria's team got close to the alien ships, they activated the devices. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, the energy fields around the alien ships flickered and died. In space, Commander Zix watched in horror as his ship's systems went dark. "What's happening?" he demanded. "How is this possible?" On the ground, in cities and towns around the world, people watched in awe as the seemingly invincible alien ships began to fall from the sky. In New York, a group of civilians cheered as they saw an alien ship crash into the Hudson River. In Moscow, soldiers who had been preparing for a last stand watched in disbelief as their enemies' weapons stopped working. But the war wasn't over yet. The Empire still had ground forces, and they fought fiercely, even as their air support disappeared. In the streets of Tokyo, Major Hiroshi Tanaka led a group of soldiers against a cornered alien unit. The fighting was intense, but for the first time, it felt like a fair fight. "Push forward," Hiroshi shouted. "Show them the strength of humanity." As news of the successful counterattack spread, hope began to rise around the world. People who had been hiding in bunkers and caves began to emerge, ready to take back their planet. In London, a group of civilians armed with makeshift weapons joined soldiers in clearing out alien stragglers. Sarah Thompson, a schoolteacher turned resistance fighter, stood on the steps of the British Museum, rallying her neighbors. "They came to our world thinking we would be easy prey," she shouted. "Let's show them how wrong they were." But even as humanity celebrated its first major victory, the scientists knew their work wasn't done. Dr. Chen and Dr. Hassan worked frantically to produce more of the devices, knowing the Empire might find a way to counter them. "We need to strike while we have the advantage," Dr. Hassan said, his eyes red from lack of sleep, "before they can adapt." In the White House Situation Room, President Chen received reports from around the world. For the first time in months, she allowed herself a small smile. "We've won a battle," she said to her advisors. "But the war isn't over. Tell our forces to push forward. It's time to take the fight to them." As the sun set on a day that had changed the course of the war, humanity dared to hope. They had stood against the might of a galactic empire and found a way to fight back. In homes and shelters around the world, people hugged their loved ones and dared to dream of a future free from alien occupation. The road ahead would be hard, but they had proven that Earth would not fall easily. As night fell, the stars came out, twinkling in the sky. But now, when people looked up, they didn't feel fear. Instead, they felt determination. The galaxy had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had found a species willing to fight to its last breath for its home. The message was clear. Humanity was here to stay, and the Galactic Empire had better watch out. The discovery of the alien tech-disabling device had changed everything. Humanity, once on the brink of defeat, now pushed forward with renewed hope and vigor. The Galactic Empire, for the first time, found itself on the defensive. General Sarah Connor stood on a hill overlooking what was once Paris. The Eiffel Tower, bent and broken, stood as a symbol of human resilience. "Begin the operation," she commanded into her radio. Across the globe, coordinated attacks on alien strongholds began. In New York, a team led by Captain Mike Chen used the new devices to shut down the force fields protecting the alien base in Central Park. "Move in," Mike shouted as the shields flickered and died. Human soldiers, a mix of professional military and civilian volunteers, surged forward. The aliens, caught off guard by the sudden failure of their technology, fought back fiercely. But without their advanced weapons, they found themselves evenly matched against the determined humans. In Moscow, a similar scene played out. Lieutenant Natasha Petrova led a daring raid on the alien command center. "For Earth," she cried as she planted explosives on the building's foundations. As the command center crumbled, alien forces in Eastern Europe fell into disarray. Human resistance groups, which had been hiding in the vast Siberian wilderness, emerged to reclaim their cities. But the war was far from over. In orbit, the remaining alien ships regrouped. Commander Zix, his pride wounded by the unexpected human victories, prepared a desperate counterattack. "If we can't have this planet," he growled to his officers, "then no one will." The alien fleet began bombarding Earth from orbit, targeting major cities and military installations. They hoped to force humanity into submission through sheer destruction. In Houston, Dr. Maria Rodriguez watched the bombardment from the underground bunker of NASA's Space Center. "We need to take the fight to them," she said to her team. "It's time to use Project Starshot." Project Starshot was humanity's most ambitious plan yet. A fleet of small, agile spacecraft, each equipped with the alien tech-disabling device. They had been built in secret, using a combination of human and reverse-engineered alien technology. As alien bombs fell on Earth, the Starshot fleet launched. Piloted by the best pilots from around the world, these ships were humanity's hope for ending the war once and for all. Captain Jamal Mbeki led the charge. His ship, no larger than a fighter jet, dodged and weaved through the debris in Earth's orbit. "Remember your training," he said to his fellow pilots. "Hit their command ships first." The space battle was like nothing humanity had ever experienced. The sky lit up with explosions as human and alien ships clashed. But the Starshot fleet had the element of surprise, and their small size made them difficult targets for the larger alien vessels. One by one, alien ships went dark as the disabling devices did their work. Jamal's ship took a hit, his controls sparking. "I'm hit," he reported, "but I'm not out of this fight yet." With a daring maneuver, he piloted his damaged ship straight into the hangar of the alien flagship. As alarms blared around him, he activated his device, shutting down the entire ship. On Earth, people watched the space battle with bated breath. In Times Square, a crowd gathered around a giant screen showing the fight. When the alien flagship went dark, a cheer went up that could be heard for miles. As more alien ships fell, something unexpected happened. On several alien vessels, mutinies broke out. It seemed not all members of the Galactic Empire supported this war. and alien communication came through on all channels. "This is Sub-Commander Vex of the Galactic Resistance," a voice said. "We wish to defect and offer our aid to Earth." In the White House Situation Room, President Chen and her advisors debated this new development. "It could be a trick," one general warned. "Or it could be our chance to end this war," the president replied. After a moment's thought, she made her decision. "Tell them we'll accept their surrender and hear them out." As the space battle wound down, with more alien ships either disabled or surrendering, a new chapter in Earth's history began. Humanity had not only survived, but had pushed back against a foe that had conquered countless worlds. On every continent, in every city, people emerged from shelters to see a sky clear of alien ships for the first time in months. There was much rebuilding to be done, but there was also hope. In a refugee camp in Kenya, an old man looked up at the stars and smiled. "We have earned our place out there," he said to the children gathered around him, "and we'll never let anyone tell us otherwise again." The Galactic Empire's warning to run had backfired. Instead of fleeing, humanity had stood its ground and shown the galaxy that Earth was not to be trifled with. The war wasn't over, but the tide had turned. The future, for the first time since the invasion began, looked bright. 5 years had passed since the great space battle that turned the tide of the war. Earth, once a backwater planet unknown to the wider galaxy, now stood at the center of a new galactic order. In the rebuilt United Nations headquarters in New York, representatives from Earth and various alien races gathered for a historic meeting. President Chen, now serving her third term, addressed the assembly. "Today, we mark the official end of the war and the beginning of a new era of galactic cooperation," she said, her voice firm and confident. Among the alien delegates was Vex, the former sub-commander who had led the defection of many Empire ships. He nodded in agreement, his 4 eyes blinking in the bright lights of the chamber. "The Galactic Empire's reign of terror is over," Vex announced. "Thanks to Earth's resistance, worlds across the galaxy are free for the first time in millennia." But not everyone was celebrating. In a dark corner of the galaxy, the remnants of the Empire plotted their revenge. Admiral Zix, one of the few high-ranking officers to escape capture, growled at his subordinates. "We underestimated these humans once," he said, his tentacles writhing in anger. "We will not make that mistake again." Back on Earth, life had changed dramatically. Cities gleamed with a mix of human and alien technology. In the skies, flying cars zoomed between buildings, while in hospitals, diseases once thought incurable were easily treated with advanced alien medical tech. Dr. Emily Chen, the scientist who had developed the game-changing device years ago, now led Earth's premier research institution. Her latest project, faster than light travel. "We've learned so much," she said to a group of eager students, human and alien alike. "But there's still so much more to discover." In orbit around Earth, a massive space station served as a hub for interstellar trade and diplomacy. Captain Jamal Miki, the hero of the space battle, now commanded this station. "From here, we can see our entire solar system," he told a group of tourists. "And beyond that, a galaxy full of wonders and potential new friends, or foes." The war had changed humanity in profound ways. People looked to the stars not with fear, but with curiosity and ambition. Children dreamed of becoming not just astronauts, but ambassadors to alien worlds. In a classroom in Lagos, Nigeria, a young girl raised her hand. "Teacher," she asked, "can we visit the planet with the rainbow rings next week?" The teacher, a tall, willowy alien from a race known as the Xindi, smiled. "Of course, Adana. Our field trip to Saturn is all planned out." But even as humanity reached for the stars, they didn't forget the hard lessons of the war. In military academies around the world, cadets studied the tactics that had saved Earth. Never underestimate your opponent. General Sarah Connor, now wrinkled but still fierce, told a class at West Point. And never, ever give up, no matter the odds. The story of Earth's resistance spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring other worlds to stand up against oppression. Humans, once dismissed as primitive by the Empire, were now respected and even feared. On a distant planet, a group of resistance fighters huddled in a cave, planning their next move against their oppressors. Their leader held up a tattered book, The Human War: How Earth Defeated an Empire. If they can do it, he told his followers, so can we. But with their new power and influence came new responsibilities. Earth now played a key role in galactic politics, mediating disputes between alien races and leading efforts to rebuild worlds devastated by the Empire. In the Oval Office, President Chen sighed as she looked at the latest reports. "With great power comes great responsibility," she murmured, quoting an old Earth saying. As Earth's influence grew, so did the legends of its great war. Across the galaxy, in countless alien languages, parents told their children bedtime stories of human bravery and ingenuity. On a peaceful world light years from Earth, an alien child asked its parent, "Are the stories true? Did the humans really defeat the whole empire?" The parent nodded its eye stalks. "Yes, little one. And do you know what the humans say now to anyone who threatens their worlds or their allies?" The child shook its head. The parent's voice grew serious. "They say, 'Remember Earth. Remember what happened to those who underestimated us. We do not start fights, but we will finish them.'" As the story ended, the child's eyes widened in wonder. Across the galaxy, countless others shared the same feeling: respect for the humans who had changed the course of galactic history, and hope for a brighter future among the stars. Earth had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. The galaxy would never be the same again. And humanity, once warned to run, now stood tall, ready to face whatever the universe might throw at them next.